Welcome to Fired Up. Once again, I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you actually in this show live, broadcasting from the studios of the American Guns and Glory Network on YouTube here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, a lot of that going on today, and self-defense issues. You can find Fired Up with Bob Irwin on YouTube with a new show we put out every Thursday around 5 p.m. The audio feed is rebroadcast on 8 Nevada radio stations all over the state of Nevada. You can find those if you go to the main station's website, which is www.kely, it's in Ely, you could guess, KELY1230.com, and there's a list of the stations. They all broadcast the same show simultaneously in various areas of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, you may leave an email at bob@firedupmail.com. I think that's on the bottom of the crawl here somewhere. And, or you can call my office recorder, area code 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, we do answer all calls by either email, text, or telephone. And any questions directed to any of my guests can be left there, and I will forward it to them if you don't have their contact information, which you'll find usually on our website also. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, 200 to 300, depending on who's doing the counting. We have the left-wing media, the anti-gun media, always picking out bad things that people do with guns. There's about 20 to 1 people doing good things with guns. So I usually pick out 3 or 4 stories to use of actual shootings. I usually delete the names. So the listeners can get an idea of what the person did, what they did right, what they did wrong. Most of them are good shootings. Some are stupid shootings. Some are just interesting because of the way the thing took place, and the idea is the listeners can put themselves in the position and see what they would have done, what the alternatives were, and so forth. That being said, Fired Up is a nationwide show, actually worldwide. We are broadcast lots of places. A lot of places pick up the show, and it's being broadcast places I never even heard of, and I discover it's on the air. The law may not apply in your area the way we say it on the air here. My guests are Nevada or California or both attorneys, but the laws vary gigantically from state to state. If you are involved in an actual incident, you have shot somebody, somebody shot at you, there's a lawsuit over a gun accident, if you get a hold of us, we can recommend an attorney in your area. Local law always prevails. Suffice to say, what is a good shooting in Wyoming is not a good shooting in New York City, etc. The laws vary widely. In fact, I think I've got a story tonight about somebody getting in trouble over that. The advice we give you is intended to keep you safe, first. Second, to hopefully keep you out of jail and prevent losing a lawsuit over it. So, that being said, allow me to introduce my guest today, Don Green. He is an attorney here in Las Vegas, or in Nevada, and also in California. Yes. So licensed both places, and is known in Southern Nevada as the gun lawyer. He yes. does a lot of work. We have done some cases together. He appears at most of the major gun shows if you want to talk to him in person, or his contact information is on our website. I'm sure he'll give it to you at the same time. And we're going to start out with one such story. This is from KABC TV 7, which is actually a Los Angeles station. Reported on the 16th of February this month in Hemet, California. A man broke into a home in the 1700 block of South State Street in Hemet about midnight on a Tuesday evening. The husband and wife, who are both in their 70s, confronted the burglar, who they found hiding in a bathroom. The husband said, "I just opened the door and boom, that's all it took. He was on me right away." Basically, he sprang at the homeowner as the homeowner opened the door. The homeowner, the husband had his gun. I believe it was a 22 in this case, but as he and the intruder were struggling over the gun, the wife ran back to the living room to grab her gun. During that interval, while they were fighting, the husband eventually got the upper hand and shot the intruder 3 or 4 times in the chest. Then the suspect lunged toward the wife when she came into the room and hit her in the face. This is after being shot 3 or 4 times in the chest. When I got into the hallway, the husband said, he knocked me into a heater, and then his wife shot the intruder with their .357 Magnum. He said, apparently to the press, the only way to stop them is to shoot them when they come in, the husband said. The intruder was able to flee the home soon after the officers arrived. There's a clear note there that this ain't television and bad guys don't fall down, make a short speech about tell Laura I loved her and die. Even this guy was hit several times. Anyway, a short time later, the police learned of a person with gunshot wounds being treated at a hospital in Moreno Valley. He was transferred from there to Riverside University Health System, and officers were able to link him to the burglary that they had a report of earlier, but the guy left before they arrived. Basically, he's got 4 rounds in him or so and fled the scene before the police arrived. Hemet Police Chief, a fellow named Rob Webb, identified the suspect as a Moreno Valley 27-year-old with an extensive criminal history for violent crimes. He's currently on parole for another burglary. He was treated for multiple gunshot wounds when they were determined to be non-life-threatening. He was arrested and booked into Riverside County Jail. Now he faces charges of parole violation, home invasion, robbery, burglary, elder abuse, and assault. The female victim, the woman in her 70s, has a large bruise on her face. The husband has bruises all over his body, but they're both still alive. The husband said, the only message I want to get out is that everybody arm up. I really would like to get that out. His wife added, we would not be speaking to you now if we had not had protection. Hemet Police Chief Webb blamed the state laws that allow the intruder to be on the street with his criminal history. We're going to go over that with Don. The police chief said this is a case of good people being victimized by a subject who the state of California failed to keep locked up. It is totally unacceptable that decisions made at the state level continues to have a detrimental effect on our local communities. The police chief is really mad. A clear example of why you should have a fire in your home and the skill and the will, obviously these people had the will to use the gun. This jerk is already on parole for prior multiple felonies and is still out attacking senior citizens. Don, I'm going to let you kind of go in from there, if you would like.
All right.
The parole system obviously has some kind of problem.
It is, especially in California, where the parole officers and the parole system and the probation system is overwhelmed, simply because of the number of cases and what happens when a judge reinstates someone to probation, or the parole board ends up allowing the person to be reinstated to parole or do something to shorten a sentence. Again, here is a senior citizen couple in one of the outlying counties, Riverside County, California. Would the results have been the same or similar in Los Angeles County? I want to say yes. Although, suppose that the couple was much younger and they lived somewhere like in Westwood, where UCLA is in Santa Monica. But when you're talking about Hemet in Riverside County, California, it's midnight, residential area. But some people are going to say that the senior citizen couple was wrong and the man was wrong to open his door at night. But as soon as he opened the door, the person rushes in. The person there was not collecting for the Red Cross. The perpetrator was there to do harm. He had already been convicted of home invasion. He already had robbery, elder abuse. I mean, he had everything. First shots by the husband. It doesn't matter whether he shot and the wife subsequently shoots. They're in their own home. They're there to protect their own home. And although in California there is no constitutional provision for the right to bear arms, there are 2 states in the United States which do not have right to bear arms provisions. That's California and New York. And I keep telling people that the keeping of firearms in California is purely a matter of legislative grace, not constitutional provision. So the thing is that mom and dad, husband and wife, shoot this man, and first weapon, ineffective, it's 22 or 25. Second weapon by the wife is a .357, takes care of business. But should we open the door? Probably not. Door was open. It's midnight.
I think you're misreading that. They found him in the house when they were searching the house.
Excuse me. I apologize. Yes.
He was hiding in their bathroom.
That's right. He was still in the bathroom.
So the guy's already in the house, and he charges out of the bathroom, and the guy, fires, but they're fighting over the gun and so on.
I misread that point here.
Yeah, it's clearly a home invasion by this multiple felon, who should be in prison. We'll continue this in just a second. We got to take a break here for just a moment to sell one of our products, and don't go away. We'll be right back. Hi, now you can get a copy of my recently updated book, The Reality of Armed Self-Defense. This is based on my 40 years experience in evaluating and defending lethal force cases. Learn the rules of using deadly force before you have to guess in the middle of a hostile situation. For Fired Up Special, you can get this book for only $10. If you live outside the first 48, please add appropriate postage. Mail orders can be sent to Bob Irwin, P.O. Box 97413, Las Vegas, Nevada 89193. Thanks for ordering one. And we are back. Again, back on these senior citizens. I mean, even given the response time was fairly quick, it didn't say what it was in the article itself, and I could not find it in the police reports. But the sheriff didn't release it, so we'll assume it was 6 or 7 minutes. That's pretty standard for wherever you want to go. And in that amount of time, the struggle took place. 2 shootings took place separately.
Yes.
The guy was able to duck out of the house and be gone on foot, as far as we can tell, prior to the police arriving. We're dealing with it. How much damage can somebody do to you in your home inside of 5 minutes when the police are on the way?
A lot.
A lot, yeah.
In the news today, the presidential advisor pointed out that in this shooting in Florida last week on Valentine's Day, everything took place in less than 3 minutes. Yeah. But the response time from the police was between 5 and 6 minutes.
Which is really quick.
Yes.
But it was over.
Yes, and that's like in this house. It's over, and it's in the home. So these people are going to be protected. There's not going to be charges filed against them. Again, suppose you've got a younger couple in Westwood, in your
you move
near
it over
UCLA.
half a county.
You move it over another county. Half a county is the world of difference, especially in California.
Yeah, in most states, you'd look on this on its face, and it's a valid shooting. That's why the disclaimer at the top of the show.
Yes.
It really depends where you are. The other thing I wanted to point out, just for the criminals that watch this show, and there are very few, they don't really at least respond very often. When you go to the hospital with a gunshot wound, even if you have a really, really, really good story about how you shot yourself accidentally 3 times with 2 different guns, they're still going to call the police. Dummy. You know,
it's required by Nevada law. that the hospitals must
required here.
Required. The hospital must contact law enforcement.
And they may well have to in California. That would seem a law that California would have without even trying to look it up. That
Yes.
you know, you can blame somebody else for something. California has a law about that. Anyway, the lesson learned is have a gun and stay alive. And as I said at the top of the show, and I frequently repeat, when the first rule is not getting killed in a gunfight or a home invasion. The second rule is to do everything we tell you about safety and calling 911 and everything else. It's got to be alive. You got to survive the encounter. So have a gun. Learn how to use it properly, safely, and quickly, and there you go. Now, we've had, I have a little section here I want to do with Mr. Green, and we've had, since the shooting in Florida, as anybody who is not living under a rock knows, we've had a lot of litigation and doing what the children want to do to keep up and get rid of assault weapons and get rid of magazines and so forth and so on. There's a national bill that Feinstein is putting up trying to get support for. There's certainly one already in California that is about to do the same thing or has done the same thing. Don's been doing a lot of research on that. The danger, as I see it, is really the national bill. If they have a magazine ban in California, which they do, you want to get rid of your magazines or don't want to have your, quote, assault rifle, military-style rifle anymore, or anything that takes a detachable magazine or everything they're outlawing, you can move to Nevada. You can move to Wyoming. You can move to Arizona. You know, you have places to go. Or sell the stuff out of state. If the federal law is passed as Feinstein is looking at, you're done. The guns are contraband, and we're down to, I don't want to step on Don's area here, but we're down to what they lovingly refer to as the Australian model, where the government simply says, give us your gun and we'll pay you fair market value, and if you don't like it, we're going to do it anyway, and you can appeal how much we gave you, but you can't get the gun back. That is going to create more civil unrest and more criminals and whatever. Well, we have a bunch of them in California already. So I'm going to shut up, Don, and charge on.
Okay. In the last 48 hours, a significant case has escaped a lot of media attention, and that is Sylvester versus Becerra. It was a case which was in California on the 10-day waiting period. The federal court in California had stated that the California 10-day waiting period is a reasonable regulation on obtaining firearms in California. You have to wait the 10 days. Several gun rights groups filed lawsuits on that, and they lost.
Even if you already owned the gun?
Even if you already had the gun and you were going to go buy another one.
You have to wait another 10 days.
You have to wait another 10 days. Right. This week, the United States Supreme Court denied certiorari in Sylvester versus Becerra. Certiorari is discretionary review by the U.S. Supreme Court. It requires 4 members to decide that they're going to hear the case. What's telling about Sylvester versus Becerra is that there was a lone dissenter, Justice Thomas. Justice Thomas was also the main dissenter in the case last year of Peruta versus Becerra, where Peruta couldn't get his California CCW and filed a lawsuit, and the U.S. Supreme Court denied certiorari in like July of 2017. Now, what's telling about this case, and for your viewers in Nevada and in California, is that Justice Gorsuch and Justice Thomas both dissented in the Peruta decision, which went to the very heart of actually obtaining a firearm and keeping it in a concealed fashion. In Sylvester versus Becerra, Justice Gorsuch did not vote to grant certiorari. Only Justice Thomas did. And Justice Thomas, as the lone dissenter, we have to look at what Justice Thomas said, and we have to look at why perhaps Justice Gorsuch and others did not vote to grant review of that case. It's a very fundamental question. Waiting 10 days to get a gun is not an unreasonable burden when you want to have a background check. And I want to tell all these pundits out there that don't tell me that the U.S. Supreme Court is not political. It's very political. And this decision is political because Justice Thomas points out that the following laws have been struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court on grounds of timing: a 24-hour cooling off period to get an abortion, a 10-day regulation to make publicly announce racially provocative speech by the KKK, any waiting period for the burning of a 25-foot cross, a 10-minute delay in traffic stops, and in Arizona, it was declared unconstitutional that a stripper has to wait 5 days to get a nude dancing license. So,
well, I'm against that one.
Justice Thomas points out that the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, and the Fourth Amendment are the very favorite amendments in the Constitution when it comes to the Supreme Court. Now, the bastard child of the Constitution is the Second Amendment. We pointed out last week that the Second Amendment is the only amendment, it is the only provision in the whole United States Constitution which protects a specific property right, that is, the right to bear arms. It's the only one. It doesn't talk about cars, it doesn't talk about horses, it doesn't talk about farms, it talks about firearms. It's the only piece of property. Now, when we're talking about these laws, Senator Feinstein's law would ban almost all assault-type rifles and a number of rifles, like some hunting rifles with extended magazines, such as specifically the Remington 7.42 30-06, for which you can get an extended magazine in 30-06. Yep. And that's coming, and we have other laws that we can perhaps discuss in the next section, which will probably come up in the Nevada legislature next year.
Yeah, we're looking at the federal and the local here both, and we're going to break for another minute here. But the magazine one is going to be, in my opinion, the absolute killer. Yes. The absolute killer. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Hi. If you keep a firearm in your home or carry one for personal protection, it is incredibly important to get some training and keep up with changes in the law. My friend Maggie Mordaunt, owner of Homeland Personal Protection, is the place to go. Maggie teaches at Bass Pro as well as the Clark County Shooting Park and major gun shows here in Clark County and in Reno. You can check out her classes at ccwmaggie.com. That's ccwmaggie.com. Training is necessary. Thank you. Do you have a firearms trust or need one to pass your guns along? The Justice Department, BATF, has changed the rules in the recent past. If you have a firearm trust, particularly a Class 3 firearm trust, it needs updating. My longtime friend, Attorney Jerry Creed, is an expert in these trusts. Call Jerry at 702-806-7777 at his Summerlin office for a free appointment and evaluation of your situation. That's Jerry Creed, 702-806-7777. Don't end up leaving your firearms to the government because you have an invalid or out-of-date trust. And we are back. Continuing a little bit on this line of what Ms. Feinstein wants and has always wanted, ban. We've got the same thing going on in California as we were talking about, yes. But the federal one on the magazines, to me, seems to be the most dangerous of all.
That's correct, and that's coming. The Democrats know, and again, we're not here to be Fox News analysts, but we're looking at it from the street. And you and I deal with this every single day. The senators in the minority, and maybe some Republicans, know that they're not going to win on this ban this session. They're banking on the 2018 midterm elections. They're banking on the 2020 elections. And they're banking on a lot of local governments putting pressure on the federal government or their state senators and their U.S. senators and their people in Congress and the House of Representatives. They're banking on that because they're doing three things. They're banning the magazines. The waiting period is going to come up, and then I see another assault ban. And I've had a lot of people tell me they can't ban these weapons, and I tell them, yes, they can, because President Clinton did that from 1996 to, 2004? Yeah. Well into President Bush's his presidency. There was an assault weapon ban on the importation of these types of weapons. In Nevada, we have to watch for the following. One, there are already people who have put out flyers. People have been discussing on the street that they're running for the Nevada Assembly and the Nevada State Senate. And there's three issues. The 10-round magazine ban, as in California. Another waiting period. Forget about the gun registration law, which was Proposition 1, which was thrown out last year, and an assault weapon ban. I've had several people approach me, and they say, Mr. Green, what is your position concerning, can we file a lawsuit on the Second Amendment? And I tell them, I won't file a lawsuit on the Second Amendment. I won't file it in federal court. Because, and I tell them that the only successful lawsuit on the Proposition 1 ban last year was not on the Second Amendment. You and I discussed that issue for a whole year before I filed a lawsuit that the Nevada's Proposition 1 was not a violation of the Second Amendment. It was more fundamental. It created an invalid taxable event in violation of clear Nevada statutes. And the Attorney General of the state of Nevada, the same Deputy Attorney General and the same Attorney General who authored the opinion that the FBI, that they could not require the background checks, those two people called me on 3 occasions and emails and letters asking for additional time to answer that lawsuit, and they never answered the lawsuit. We ended up resolving the case where we got a ruling from the Nevada Tax Commission, a technical bulletin saying that it will not create a tax if it is held to be legal. Now, they're also, and these same people are saying, well, we want to file something again on the 10-round magazine if that becomes the law. We want to file something on the waiting period, and we want to file something on Nevada's version of the assault weapons ban, which is coming. There's no question. And if the Democrats take over the Senate and the Assembly, even though they get a majority, if we have a Republican governor, it may or may not, it may be vetoed. I don't know if there's enough votes to overcome a veto, but it's coming. And they want to file, and I say, no, we would not file on a Second Amendment. We would not file in federal court because the Ninth Circuit's law is applicable to every federal district court in this state. They've got to follow the Ninth Circuit rulings, which right now are subject to writs of certiorari to the U.S. Supreme Court, one of which was denied on the 10-day waiting period, and the magazine ban is now before the Ninth Circuit, and we don't know what panel is going to be to which it's going to be assigned. And then next will be another assault weapon ban, and I tell the people, no, we want to file, if we do, on Nevada's version of the Second Amendment, which says that the citizens, and in a case from 2012 by the Nevada Supreme Court, meaning those who are otherwise eligible and qualified and have no prohibitions to own firearms, may own and bear and keep firearms for self-defense, for hunting, recreational, and all lawful means, including self-defense. And that's our very clear constitutional provision, and it took 3 Nevada legislatures, 3 votes of the people back in from about 77 to 1981, so for that to be in the Nevada Constitution, which is very clear, very clear. So we have a specific constitutional provision. We have no current Nevada statutes which ban assault rifles. We do have them which ban short barrel rifles, illegal pistols, illegal rifles, weapons without serial numbers unless you've made it for yourself in compliance with ATF regulations. But I see that coming, Bob. You and I have discussed this on many occasions, and I think that the people of the state of Nevada who are interested in their gun rights and keeping and preserving their rights should contact you, should contact your television show, and try to get together and put together a grassroots movement, if they can, and contact their assembly people, current assembly people, and current senators.
This issue, and I didn't bring notes on it this morning. As most of you know, Adam Laxalt is running for governor, and the main competition is Steve Sisolak, who is currently on the Republican, or on the Democrat that runs the Democratic County Commission. Sisolak came out with a statement today, this morning, that said that you should vote for him to be governor because Adam Laxalt refused to enforce the law that was put forward by the people, and now we have all these school shootings, and that Laxalt has blood on his hands for being, and is responsible for us not having an assault weapon ban, and therefore there is blood on his hands, and you shouldn't vote him for governor, and so on and so on. Sisolak knows full well that Proposition 1 was poorly written. The way it was written, the feds refused to cooperate with it, of course. But now Sisolak has turned that around and say when he is governor, we will get rid of all these assault weapons in Nevada, and we will get rid of all these high capacity, whatever that means, 10 round, 7 round, 5 round, I don't know, 20 round. We'll get rid of all these magazines, and he is going to make that happen when he is the governor. Obviously, he can't do that as governor. It's unconstitutional. It would be part of the Lawyers Full Employment Act that is going to be this continuing thing. But where I heard this on television, and I went to a seminar this morning that was taught by some hierarchy in the Republican Party, and this is the result. The Republicans have the voter turnout in every election to sweep the state, every election. We have always had, in the last 6 elections, a higher percentage turnout than the Democrats have. The Democrats vote the party ticket. They're given a note, vote for these 6 people and, get back on the bus and go back to work kind of thing. The left does that. But we have the votes. We have the registration numbers. We are gaining in registration numbers dramatically over the last 3 to 4 months. And we are within, if our voter turnout is as normal and the Dems is as normal, even though they're slightly ahead in voter registration in the state, our turnout is heavier, and basically the election right now is a toss-up. Don't sit on your hands. The way to stop all this litigation, all this take your guns away crap is not to complain about it, it's to vote. Register and vote. They're doing a lot of registration drives now. The Democrats are doing a ton of them. They're paying people to sign up people to register to vote. We're actually, some Republican groups now are doing the same thing, putting paid people out there. But they have to ask them what party they want to sign up for, and they can't change it. Some of these people, they get so much money if it's a Democratic voter, they get nothing if it's a Republican voter. And there have been investigations for changing ballots and things like that, and not talking to people. When I was stopped last election before when I went to vote by a nice lady outside, and she said, I have a petition, for gun safety. And I said, oh, I'm for gun safety, And what does it say? It's about registering guns and background checks, and is it for or against? I don't know. They just pay me $3 for people signing up. You're talking to the wrong guy. Well, she was talking to the wrong guy. But nice lady, just needed the work and got $3 every time somebody signed up. They've gotten a little more aggressive now and have been caught changing ballots and, trashing Republican ballots. The issue is going to be the huge bulk of the voters in the state are now independents. And they tend to break for the Republicans by about 60-40. So if everybody gets their normal turnout, the Dems get their normal, we get our normal, the independents break as they normally do, we are going to win top to bottom in this next state election, according to the researchers for the RNC. But it requires voting. Don't sit on your hands. Help somebody else get to the polls. Vote. That's the key. The alternative is absolute chaos in the legal system. And I don't know how many of you own a pistol that has a magazine that holds more than 10 shots, or 7 shots. It depends on whose bill you're reading. You're all going to be criminals. So what happens is, what's happened in California, they now take voter registration lists and felon lists and where felons live and who lives in the house with them and so forth. And if they think there's a weapon in the house, of course you can't have a weapon in your house if a felon's living with you in your house, unless it's locked in a safe and you don't have, I did a case on that some time ago, but what happens is they send a letter and say, come down and turn in your gun or turn in your magazines. And if they get no response, they send the police. They've got a couple of special strike teams in California to do this. Well, now you're the police, and they say, here's a note, go to this guy's house, and he's got a gun, and he's a felon, and, he refuses to turn his gun in. Well, who are you going to send? You send a SWAT team, of course. So they're going to enter like gangbusters because they're trying to protect themselves, and bad things happen. This will be chaos. We can stop the whole thing. Just vote your conscience, sign up, register online, whatever you got to do, and vote. Right. And save your paper ballot that comes in the machine and check it to make sure it's right. And so it can be audited later, where the machines now print a paper ballot if you want, and they're verified, county by county against the voter list and so on. So all you got to do is just get to the polls and vote, and encourage your friends to do, and none of this crap will ever happen. It's just a thought. That's how we change governments and fix governments in the United States, is we vote. That's the privilege. We're going to be back in just a moment. I think I ran out of time on that one. Don't go away.